Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports.
Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports with Tyler Drake and Lauren Koval.
Bird Gang, welcome back to another edition of Cardinals Corner. No, we are not celebrating a win this time around. Instead, it's a 20-13 loss to the Detroit Lions. Yes, I'm Tyler Drake. That's Lauren Koval. We're here for another episode. Lauren, how are we doing after that loss?
We've been better following that loss, and not only because I projected a win sitting on my head. We did. We were optimistic about things.
Yes, we were.
But also because I may have cursed this studio, given that the two times I've been in it so far this season, we've lost.
That is a good point. I didn't really think about that. So you're saying next Sunday
redemption.
You need to be out there, or?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, if they lose, we can move to extremes. I can start podcasting, and there's a closet behind this wall here. I could just start podcasting from there. That'd be fine.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess maybe it just comes down to one co-host being here and the other person not. So maybe if my wife Mackenzie has her baby boy this week, you can be get on the lucky side again, I should say. If I can get that out.
Thank you. Maybe it's the chair. I did sit in your chair for the last podcast.
That's what it is.
People wouldn't know because we were just big heads during the following podcast, but I did sit in your chair, so maybe that's part of it.
Big talking heads. All right. Well, looking at the game, I guess, what's your just initial surface reaction right now?
My initial reaction was, wow, look at this offense in the first half. It really felt like it was just going to be sort of a sling fest of who could score more points. Neither defense really seemed like they had either team figured out at any point. And then the second half, a complete reversal of that. Obviously, neither team scored. So lots to work on there.
Yeah, just the 3 points from the Cardinals. That was it. That's it. No scores from the Lions. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It was right at the gates. Both opening drives went for touchdowns for the Lions, for the Cardinals. It looked like it was one of those, oh man, maybe we were a little off on our score prediction of just how much more points were going to be scored. And then it went from 7-7, 14-7, and kind of just went away.
Drifted away.
Sputtered away. And yeah, I think both sides really came out just on fire, knew what they wanted to do, wanted to run the ball or at least exert some will, some physicality. But yeah, after that first opening drive from the Cardinals, that offense just kind of fell off.
And it felt like they didn't know how to get it back. Mm-hmm. I think the things that worked so successfully for both the Lions and the Cardinals early on in that game was they were kind of getting whatever they wanted from the opposing defense. Yes, I want to throw it 10 yards down the field to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, I want to throw it 20 yards down the field to MHJ. You can do it. It's open. You have it. And there weren't any grave mistakes either defense made. Early on, there wasn't something I could sort of point my finger at and be like, oh, that's because they did that. That's why everybody scored. It was just sort of a collective effort of, they don't really have it right now.
Yeah. I think on the defensive side, that first drive, you just saw chunk play. That was the name of the game for the Lions there. And then, yeah, I think just how everything transpired, it very much seemed like you just said, I thought we were looking at maybe a 40-point game somehow, crazy. But instead, things just fall off. And I think two things for me. The run game for the Cardinals. That's the number one thing that stands out to me just because we know this team just wants to run the ball. That's how they show off their high motor. They show off their versatility. They show off that physicality, that violence, running the rock. They did not run the rock very well today. They ended up with 77 yards on 18 carries. That's not going to do it.
The worst game of this season for James Conner, by far.
By far.
It just didn't look like... It looked like the Lions' sort of defensive line was applying so much pressure right out the gate that he couldn't get that second sort of boost he gets when he can get downfield. It's, okay, let me now barrel through this defender and keep going. Instead, he was stopped at that front wall. Amari DiMercato mainly used him as that third down back. And exactly. And he did like what they needed from him, but nothing exceptional. And before the season started, Drew Petzing talked about, I'm not going to reveal what Trey Benson's role is on this team. Not going to reveal how we're using him. I had him as sort of my key to the game for the Cardinals. And that key did not find the lock today.
No. I mean, if we want to go to my key of the game, Greg Dortch didn't necessarily find the lock there. Greg Dortch, 3 for 35, 6 targets, but your boy Benson, 2 carries, 8 yards. So clearly not in the equation there.
No.
But if you look at James Conner, he didn't even get 10 carries. He only had 9 carries for 17 yards. And I did some quick, I guess you can't really call it mathing. Did some statsing.
First of all, you would just do math, not mathing.
Well, I can make it a verb.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was talking with, actually, Burns from Burns & Gambo.
I know him.
Yeah, you do. We were looking at things, and I was like, man, they don't ever win when he gets under 10 carries. And we went through it. We both kind of went down the game log since he's been a Cardinal, and they are 2-7 now when he does not get at least 10 carries.
Do you remember what those 2 wins were?
Oh,
I'm really grilling you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe be some filler and I can find.
Stall.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing right there is if you can't get James Conner rolling, and James Conner's a guy where you feed him more and more and more, he's going to get more comfortable. He's going to get more downhill. He's going to be more of that figurehead for this offense. So not getting him involved early on, I think that really hurt kind of their overarching, spacing the ball out both through the air and on the ground. And then, you put it in Kyler's hands, and I think we all expected it wasn't going to be a perfect passer rating type of night. That just doesn't really happen. There's only been 2 in Cardinals history. It's him and Kurt Warner. And you see what he did today, and it's like, yes, you still see some of those things. I liked that he tried to force it a little bit. Were there some spots where he shouldn't have done that? Absolutely. And one of them resulted in an interception, and he knows that because they probably could have got some points out of that drive some way or another, field goal, touchdown. But instead, he tried to go for it all, threw it right in double coverage, easy pick from the guy that you pinpointed as somebody to watch, Kirby Joseph.
Kirby Joseph for the Lions there, safety. Yeah, Kyler Murray thrown into double coverage in the end zone on MHJ, trying to make something happen, trying to find some motivation for this offense. Kirby right there. He also cemented his presence in the second half, not with any interceptions, but they started to use him a little bit more as a spy. The Lions don't tend to use a spy, but they do have someone sort of hovering in that midfield range, and he would sort of drop in as an extra guy. And I also feel like that's maybe why James Conner didn't find so much success running the ball.
Yeah, yep, I agree with that. But for Kyler, his final stat line, 21 of 34, 61.8% throwing, 207 yards, touchdown, interception, quarterback rating or passer rating of 76.5. So that's less than half of 158.3, if I'm right there.
Yeah, you're good. You're right. Your mathing is working out
My
there.
mathing is going great.
I think that you brought up a good point about Kyler Murray in this game today, which is the fact that he was forcing it a little bit more than we've ever seen him.
And that's what we wanted to see in week 1.
Yes.
Throw that thing. So as much as I'm like, man, I'm not really that mad at it because we need to see that. Like we need it. Like Marvin is that dude. He can't just get open looks all day. You've got to, at the end of the day, you've got to throw some up.
No, and I think that my hesitation with not just chucking the ball down the field, I do think that there were a few plays when he threw the ball to Marvin where I felt like if he tried a little bit harder, or if he worked a little bit harder, that's a catch.
Okay.
Like his defender was on him. It was going to be tough.
There was a couple
either way.
there was a couple that seemed like he still made the catch and then he'd hit the ground and it was,
Yes, and it's okay, if you just hold on to it, if you just are half a step quicker, if you just can sort of shake your defender as we see elite wide receivers in this league do, then I feel a little bit better about him forcing it. I do think somebody that he didn't force the ball to, but he had a very natural connection with today was Michael Wilson.
Yeah. I was like, great observation. Because, him and Marvin Harrison Jr. tied for the team lead in receiving yards with 64. But Michael Wilson made 8 catches on 9 targets. Marvin Harrison, 5 catches on 11 targets. Now, he's going to be wanting to get those back.
Now, to back up Marvin a little bit, some of those were just like not happening. There was,
No.
There was one in the third quarter. I mean, he had to grow 3 feet to catch that ball. But I like that he's targeting him a lot and sort of splitting up and divvying up those opportunities, especially when you don't have like one super hot wide receiver during the game.
Yeah.
There wasn't somebody who like stood out as the star for this offense.
Marvin did find the end zone again, though. That was a double coverage. He was wide open. That was a very nonchalant touchdown, I felt like, even with 2 defenders on him. But the one positive, though, I've got to take away from this game, I guess there's 2 positives. Let's start with the one, since we're talking about Kyler. The fact that he came into the press conference after the game and spoke about how he's not about moral victories, not at all. Like, let's get that out of the way first. That's not what he's about. If it's not in the win column, doesn't matter. No moral victories. But he came and explained how even though they lost, he is frustrated. He's very frustrated. He's also encouraged with what this team put on tape. I mean, this is not the Rams. The Rams, granted, they're coming off a huge win against the Niners, who are depleted too. The Lions are far superior than the Rams. I think the offensive line by itself is far superior. But the fact that they went toe-to-toe as long as they did and did not put together a good game offensively for at least 2 quarters, I mean, like, let's be real. Like, that first quarter was about their best offensive showing for the day.
Yes.
That was it. The fact that it was only 1-score game at the end of it still, I think, really does show like they're not that far away. I know people are looking at it like, oh, they've got to play perfect for this to happen. They didn't play perfect at all.
No.
Defense gave up 2 touchdowns really fast. The offense came out, struck fast, and then fell off. Still stayed in the game. I mean, that alone, you have to have some kind of, okay, no blowout, coming off a huge win over the Rams. That's kind of it's not what you want to see, but if you have to see a loss, that's the kind of loss that you can wake up tomorrow and be like, man, 4 plays back, we probably win that game.
And to keep it close all the way until the very end, when really you could have sort of assembled this game-winning drive and then been like, how are we still in this game? Like, as a Cardinals fan sitting watching this game, how are we still in this?
Especially when there's a 2-minute warning call, blown dead, whatever you want to call it, that really, and I know JG doesn't like to use momentum, doesn't like to think about it. That was a huge momentum shift because it went from pick 6, Mac Wilson Sr. to the house. I mean, that would have made it, I think they would have tied the game or been right there. They could have at least tied it or got a lead at that point. They blow the play dead. Okay. And it looked like I know this is a replay and I know there's still shots and I know all of these things, but it looked like they got the ball off at 2:01. And even if it goes to 2 exactly, there's millisecond.
And it's like the play clock phenomenon in the NFL, where it goes to 1 and you go, okay, you've got to hike the ball. That's not true. You have the tick from 1 to 0.
You can let it go to 0, but you've got to get it off.
Yes, exactly. You have that, like, not full second, that half a second from 1 to 0.
Huge.
I wasn't at the game, so I was at home. And during the TV broadcast, they played it back because the whistle came so late by the time that you heard it. The booth went, okay, did we just not hear it? Like, is it really loud and were we not paying attention? So they replayed it with just the sound from the field. And you can hear the faintest sound of what could be a whistle, what could be a shuffle, what could be a fan, what could be somebody whistling 5 rows up from the field. And then the only time that there's a definite sound of an official blowing the whistle, we're already 3 seconds into the play, 4 seconds
Wilson's
into the play.
Wilson's already halfway to the end zone.
Exactly. Exactly. So it felt like a very... I wanted to curse, and I needed to pause and be like, I'm not going to curse here. But it felt like that was the game.
Yeah.
That was the game.
I mean, it did. It felt like that because not only does that happen, Lions get to do a redo. And what happens? They drive down the field and score. Like a 7-play, 72, something like that drive. Like, just, that's a huge swing of points. Like, that's like 14 points.
When you just think that you had a pick 6.
Yes. You turn around and watch them score a touchdown. Like, that is, I don't care how jacked, how amped, how in the game you are, that is going to do a number on somebody on that sideline.
On anybody. And I think that nobody really knew what was happening on the field. Like, when you go back and watch, it's like the Lions are sort of looking around like, did he just throw a pick six? And the Cardinals are celebrating. But then you also like look at the Cardinals team up on the sidelines, and they're sort of looking back at the officials.
Yeah, like did that happen, right?
Yeah,
that happened,
like,
right?
Are you gonna? What's gonna happen here?
Yeah, well, pool reporter, we actually talked to the ref. Did not give much of an explanation. Let me just say that. Pretty much says, like, we have a guy that watches, side judge. When that hits 0, when it hits 2 minutes, we've got to blow the play dead, and that's exactly what we did. So he explained it. I think we all know that rule, I would say. Don't really need the explanation there, but that was what was seen from the ref today. So take it for what you want to take it as.
I take it as he's explaining something we all know. Our hesitation is not with the fact that they called it. It's with, was it 2 minutes?
Okay, let me read you the quote exactly. Mechanically, we have an official that is watching the clock, and what he had as a ruling was the clock was at 2 minutes and the ball was snapped. This was Brad Rogers, referee. So by rule, when the clock is at 2 minutes, it is then dead. We're not going to let the play get off. We started killing the play by blowing whistles. I know the play started, but when we started blowing the whistle, it shuts it down. Some of the players were still going because they couldn't hear our whistles, apparently. So it looks like there's part of the action that's still moving and some of the action is stopping. So when we start blowing our whistles, it shuts the play down completely.
I have a lot of not appropriate for air thoughts on that, but let me come up with my appropriate for air thoughts, which is, yes, he explains the rule as it's to be called. Was it 2 minutes? Arguable. Don't know. Did it hit 2 minutes? Was it 2:01?
I'm going to say it did not hit 2 minutes.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I've watched it back.
I've watched it back.
Idea.
It looks like it is moving. The ball is getting snapped as the clock is hitting it.
It's also, if you're blowing your whistle and you hit 2 minutes and everybody's still moving, it's one of those things where I want one of the officials to like run out into the middle of the play and start waving his hands. Like really call it dead. Like be like, no, this isn't happening. And then the fact that you let the play on go long enough to turn into a pick six and then have to go out there and turn your little mic on and address the fans and go, no, never mind, 2 minute warning.
Sorry about that. Yeah, well, Jonathan Gannon, you want to know what his response was to that call?
I'm going to say short and sweet.
They call what they call.
He is a man of few words, but he kind of nailed it. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
What are you going to do? I mean, if anything, you're going to get yourself in hot water for talking about the officiating.
And enjoy your fine from the NFL.
Exactly. So take the loss, move on to week 4. But there's one more positive, and yes, we talked about how the Lions came out, scored right away, boom, boom, like set the tone. And I think the defense really showed a lot in the second half. The fact that in the pass rush especially, the fact that the pass rush ended up with 2 sacks against a team that had only allowed 2 sacks through 2 weeks, that alone is impressive. That alone should have a lot of people happy with what they're seeing right now from this, let's say, depleted, not low talented, but there's some talent missing in that room. We know BJ's hurt. That's one of it. But Dennis Gardeck's playing out of his mind. They had 3 sacks last week, had an interception this week. The dude is doing it all. I remember, and this is really cool because he talked about this offseason about how he wanted to add more to his game than just being a pass rusher. We saw exactly that today. Like, that looked like he had that the whole, like, he looked like he had so comfortable.
He looked like he had the play. Like, almost like, okay, I know exactly what they're going to run because I can tell, so I'm just going to sit right here and wait until he tries to throw the ball here, and it's mine.
Yep. And then Mack Wilson Sr., getting in the pass rush, he's huge. He needs to be a more regular addition into that, not in that room, but just give him more pass rush because he can get home. And if he can't get home, he can do what he did against Goff and be in the vicinity to pick something off, and hopefully it'll count next time. But that there, and then Dante Stills, I got to give a huge shout out to, because healthy scratch last week, was a limited participant throughout the week of practice, filled in when Justin Jones went down with a triceps injury, and that was another thing. Like, you could tell this was a physical game by how many people were getting injured. But yeah, he filled in really, really, really well. Had a tackle for loss right away, coming in for Jones, and then had a sack. Like, that's what you want to see out of your guys, especially a guy who is kind of fighting a little adversity there this past week and a half, I'd say.
Also a shout out for his on-field celebration following the sack.
Oh, okay.
Really enjoyed it.
I didn't see it.
It's go back and watch.
Okay.
Because it's also sort of the look on his face. The Arizona Cardinals, a pretty stoic team in general on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like every time we see them in pressers or during the game, they're very even-keeled. And he genuinely looks excited.
Yeah.
Like he's smiling and he's happy.
He's all giddy.
And he's like looking around at the team like, look what I just did.
Yep.
It's like show and tell in like kindergarten. He's like, look at this sack that I just got right here. And it was very
awesome.
cute and very charming. And I think that plays off of another really great point during the game, which was even though the offensive line did not have a great game and didn't give Kyler a ton of time to throw the ball all the time, there was one shot during the second half of the game in which the camera pans over to Paris as he's walking the sidelines, and he was animated, genuinely animated, just upset, frustrated, not at anybody specifically, just like a general frustration.
Yeah.
And that is something that makes me as a fan feel excited.
Yeah.
Because he's upset. I think they just had gone 3 and out in the game. And he genuinely seems upset. He's trying to motivate everybody. He's trying to keep this high intensity. That's something we haven't seen from a Cardinals bench.
Yeah.
Like as they're walking the sidelines
Yeah.
in a long time. And it speaks to that culture that Jonathan Gannon's trying to build here.
Yeah, exactly. Could not agree more with you. Well, it was a weird day just across the NFL. Do you want to know who's leading the NFC West after today?
I would love to know.
It's not the Rams, it's not the Niners, and it's not the Cardinals.
No.
It is the 3-0 Seattle Seahawks.
The undefeated Seattle Seahawks.
What is going on here?
And very easily.
Ugh.
Today,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, their point differential is plus 30 right now.
Just as everybody predicted at the beginning of the season, correct? The 3-0
Yep.
Seattle Seahawks.
3-0, yeah.
It makes those games that we talked about in the first half of this schedule, those in-division games, have even more intensity than we imagined. Because I think it's fair to say that we both kind of thought the Niners would run away with it.
Yeah.
Then it was going to be a fight for that next slot. And how were they going to do that? And now with a banged-up Niners team and a really banged-up Rams team, that's something else to look at.
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be a lot of intensity this week. Because guess who's coming to town?
Everybody's favorite former head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, and everybody's favorite former ASU Sun Devil.
Antonio Pierce? No.
Oh.
Herm Edwards?
Oh, no.
Oh.
He's back in the NFL.
He's on the train.
Didn't anybody tell you?
Yeah. Washington Commanders coming to town. Cliff and Co. as the OC. So, going to be a very spirited game. If not on the field, in the stands.
I think
Cliff's going to get a lot.
The fans will have a little something to say. Maybe bring, my suggestion to Arizona Cardinals fans going to the game, bring a lion poster.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Bring something lion.
Something Leo themed.
Yes.
Because he's a Leo.
He's a big Leo. It's kind of my thing. Kind of symbolic. Is that what he says?
Something he points to it.
It's the symbolism of it all.
Yeah, I'm a Leo. So I'm a Leo, so that's why it's there. Or something very as if that's an explanation.
Yep, I got Pisces stuff all over my house.
Oh, really?
No. Cliff was cool, though. He was a good guy.
He was,
Just not the greatest Cardinals head coach.
No. But he's been doing a decent job as OC.
Yeah. We'll have to see if they can get it together. He's not very good at State Farm Stadium, though, so...
Another home game for him. Uh-oh.
Look out, Cliff. Well, I think we've done about all the talking we need to do for this game.
All we can do as we head into Baby Watch.
Even more, like 2.0.
I know, we're really in Baby Watch now.
Due date Thursday. Yeah. Well, as I continue to watch for a baby to show up, you guys should continue to keep it locked on the Arizona Sports app, 98.7 and ArizonaSports.com. Follow me on all the social medias and see if Baker shows up one of these days at T Drake for Sports. You can follow Lauren at Colville_Lauren. please follow the show at AZ Cards Corner. And obviously, you can get this podcast wherever you're listening to it because you're listening to it right now. But we'll be back with you guys next week. Maybe it's just Lauren and somebody else. Who knows? I might be back. I might not. Who knows? We'll see. But until then, we'll talk to you guys later.